Here's a question or a misconception that occurs lots and lots of times with sellers and with buyers. There's a big difference between being proactive and assuming. So think about that for a minute. There's a huge difference between being proactive and assuming that you know. One philosophy I've always followed is that there's always something to be learned in every single situation. And I don't assume anything is set in stone. Here's why. Lots of sellers have the misconception, and lots of buyers do too, that a home can fail an inspection. That is not true. Lots of people have the misconception that an inspection is something that is mandated by the bank or the lender, or whoever the case may be. That is not true. There are so many misconceptions when it comes to inspections and appraisals. So I'm going to address the major differences between an inspection and an appraisal. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to inspections is that they are not mandated by anyone. A home inspection is your right as the buyer during your due diligence and inspection part of your contract to have the home that you are looking at purchasing inspected by anyone you choose. It can be a licensed inspector, which is who I always recommend. You want a licensed inspector with a great reputation for finding things that need repair in a home. And listen, there's no such thing as a perfect house. None. I don't care if it was built yesterday or it was built 100 years ago. There is no such thing as a perfect home. I guarantee you, if you hire an inspector who is legit, because there are some out there who are not, they're going to find something wrong. And listen, it may be some little nitpicky things, but they will find things. Their job, you can see it as an investigator, to find things wrong with the home. That's their job. They follow, if they are licensed with the state, the same list of things that they have to check. So they're looking for the roof, issues with the roof. They're looking for issues with the foundation, and everything between the roof and the foundation is what they're looking for. Their job is to find things that are in need of repair, things that are no longer up to code, all those things. There's no such thing as passing or failing an inspection, all right? So remember this, as the buyer, you do not have to have an inspection. If you have certain loan types, certain government loans, they're probably going to require that you have the house inspected for any kind of wood destroying insects. And so if you've ever heard the terminology WDIR, that stands for wood destroying insect report. If you have a government loan of any kind, your lender will probably require that you have the home inspected for any kind of wood destroying insects. And that report can be given to you by any company dealing with insects, J&J, E&R, Guarantee, Orkin. There's numerous companies that can go out, and what they should do, if your house that you're buying is on piers, or if the house you're selling is on piers and you want to know ahead of time, do you have any kind of wood destroying insects? If it's on piers, they should crawl underneath the home. A huge red flag, especially if you're a buyer, is if the home is on piers and they do not crawl under the house. You want someone who is going to crawl the underneath of the home. All right, so that's the only inspection that will probably be mandated if you have any kind of government loan. What's the difference between inspections and appraisals? if you're getting any kind of financing to purchase the home, the bank, the lender, the mortgage company, whoever your loan is through, will have to have an appraisal. And so as a seller, I always say to sellers, listen, if you're thinking about selling anytime soon, if you are a real estate agent from anywhere in your area that knows the market, there's no reason as the seller to pay for an appraisal. It is an absolute waste of time, and it's a waste of your money. If you are a seller thinking about selling anytime soon, I guarantee you can call 5 different appraisers out to your property on any given day, and they will all come up with different comparables, and they will all come up with different price values of your home. And it's worthless. Why? Because the bank, the buyer's bank, will send out their own appraisal. And they don't care what your appraiser looks like, what your appraisal report looks like. They won't even ask to see it. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money, it's a waste of your energy to do it. Now, if you say as a seller, you're thinking about selling, but you have no idea what the value of your home is, you can have an appraisal if you want to, but any realtor should be able to go out to your place, assess it, pull the comparables, which means the things that have sold in the last 6 months similar to yours, and get you a value of your home. Again, that number is not set in stone, because I guarantee you if you call 5 different realtors on any given day to your home, they're going to come up with 5 different numbers. Why? Because it's very, very, very subjective. It just is, right? So an appraisal will be done by the buyer's bank if they're getting financed. You may very well have a buyer that's paying cash and they do not have to have it appraised. They may choose to, and they have the right to, but they do not have to, right? So if you have a buyer, let's just say your home is in need of some repair. Let's just say you're wanting to sell your home, and you may have some peeling paint, some rotten wood, you may be missing handrails on your steps, you may have a cracked glass or two. If the buyer of your home is getting a government type loan, you can assume, and listen, I use the word assume loosely, because you don't know what appraiser is going to step foot on your property. Appraisers run the gamut of very, very, very lenient to very, very, very strict. And so a government appraisal is going to be looking for things like peeling paint, rotten wood, broken windows, missing handrails, safety concerns for the buyer, all right? So that's the difference between an inspection and appraisal. Let's say you have your house for sale, you have some rotten wood and some peeling paint, you have a contract, your buyer has an FHA loan, probably, and we cannot assume, but probably the appraiser is going to flag the rotten wood and the peeling paint. So I say probably, because just last week I represented sellers of a home. The home went under contract, the buyer's loan is FHA, and I knew that there was some rotten wood and peeling paint on this home. This home was inherited by some siblings. They didn't have the time, energy, or money to fix these items. I told them an appraiser may flag these things, and then if they do, we'll have to deal with them, right? Guess what? The appraiser flagged nothing. Not one single piece of wood that was rotten was flagged. Not one bit of peeling paint was flagged. That is a gamble every single time. You do not know what appraiser is stepping foot on your property. So should you be proactive in spending a whole lot of money on the front end? It depends on your situation. And that's a conversation that you should have with your realtor. I always err on the side of caution and keeping as much money in your pocket as humanly possible. and not making repairs just because we're going to assume that things are going to get flagged. Because listen, those things may not get flagged, right? We cannot say adamantly these things are going to get flagged. I know in the past, rotten wood, peeling paint, cracked windows, missing handrails have been flagged. Sometimes they do not. So the major difference between an inspection and an appraisal: an inspection is not mandatory, an appraisal only is by the buyer's bank if they're getting financed. If it's a cash deal, you may very well sell your home and it never gets inspected or appraised. Okay, so just make sure you know the difference. Make sure if you're new to the buying market or the selling market that you have a good conversation with people who understand the process. Buying and selling a home, you can waste a whole lot of money. And if you're the seller, your ultimate goal is always to keep as much money in your pocket as possible, right? And if you're a buyer, your goal is to have a realtor on your side who loves negotiating and who's going to get you the absolute best deal possible that you as the buyer deserve to get. It depends on which side of the coin you're on as to what you need. But whether you're a buyer or a seller, your biggest goal should be to have someone on your side who knows how to negotiate and knows how to get things to the closing table, right? There's so many reasons deals can fall apart, but when you're working with a real estate agent who closes lots and lots and lots of transactions, the fall apart percentage should be very, very, very low, and that's a good question to ask your realtor. I would say probably less than 1% of deals that I get under contract fall apart. We get them to the closing table. How? By being proactive on the front end. Y'all have a fabulous day. Take care.